Welcome to another edition of Parks Rec and Roll. In today's show, we're on tour. First, we'll visit the historic Kingsley Schoolhouse at Little Bennett Regional Park. After that, we'll drop into Brookside Gardens, which has a vibrant adult education program. There, we'll go behind the scenes to learn about composting. Stay tuned.
Hi, I'm Craig Rice, Montgomery County Council member. I represent District 2, which includes the upper region of Montgomery County, which includes parts of Germantown, Montgomery Village, Damascus, and Clarksburg. One of the gems of my district is Little Bennett Regional Park. It's a 3,700-acre park with a campground, golf course, and over 20 miles of trails. Now, also on the property is a historic one-room schoolhouse, which is open for tours. Make sure you check it out.
Welcome to Little Bennett Regional Park. We are at the Kingsley Schoolhouse. About 10 years ago, there was a master plan done for the park, and the Friends of Little Bennett formed, and the park manager, Wendy Hanley, worked with the Friends of Little Bennett and the Clarksburg Historical Society. They said there's a real opportunity here. And they scrubbed down the building. People lent or donated some school desks, and basically they put a few furnishings in there, painted the walls, and they opened the building once a year in September for lessons from the past. But it was only open once a year, and the school really had not been properly rehabilitated. In 2007, the Cultural Resources Stewardship Section, which is quite a mouthful, of the Department of Parks was formed, and our purpose is to rehabilitate the many historic buildings that are in the park system and to open some of them as interpretive centers, as museums to the public. So this is one of my favorites. Kingsley Schoolhouse was built in 1893 at this location, and what's different about it today than when it was built is that today you find it in the middle of a park with lots of beautiful trees grown up around you. It's very tranquil here. But when it was built, it was in the middle of an area that was agricultural, so there were farms. And so it looked very different when children went to school here back in the 1890s and up through the 1920s. It wasn't a huge project. It's a one-room schoolhouse, so that makes it not too complicated. And our own carpenters worked on it. They recreated the windows. We had them make shutters. The school didn't originally have shutters, but this protects the building from vandalism. And I was given a budget to furnish the inside of the school because we only had a couple of school desks and so on. So with this budget, which was really pretty minimal, I went on Craigslist and I found wonderful objects for the building, and many of them were donated. Once the people realized that it was for a park system and was going to be open to the public, they said, here, take it. We found a 1920s globe and so on and so forth. So the schoolhouse is interpreted to the 1920s.
Make sure that everything is within the time period for this school. So for example, this is copyright 1929, 1932.
We have oral histories from residents in Clarksburg.
I was born in 1919. I went to school when I was 7, and I attended the school 2 years.
My name is Kenneth Thurston King. I guess I was about 5 years old when I started this school.
So it's really been a wonderful community collaboration to bring this schoolhouse back to life. And hikers come back. It's about a 3/4 mile walk. We've got a terrific docent inside, Ralph Buglas.
People who attended this school remember marching in to the sounds of a march. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
We have the Pledge of Allegiance written over here, and we have our flag. The Pledge of Allegiance was a little different, so come on over here. I pledge allegiance to my flag. Yes, at that point when they said to my flag, they would point to the flag.
He has won actually a national and a state award for his work here at Kingsley Schoolhouse.
A little later, as years went on and World War II came around, the country was fighting Germany, and this looked very much like a Nazi salute, which is what they said in Germany. So at that point, the pledge was changed and you kept your hand on your heart the whole time.
We are just so honored to have him as a dedicated docent here.
I'm dressed like the very first teacher, who was a man. His name was Mr. Willis Rhodes. Mr. Rhodes might take out his ruler and just give a little rap on the knuckles, and that was enough to make sure that kids would obey the rules. All the other teachers were women, and because they had to live nearby here too, they might be living with you guys, with your families. Can you think of anything good about it? Nothing good at all? No.
Well, I remember Maud Ashton. She was my first teacher. And Elsie Green and Alice Boswell. She lived in, Alice lived over in Brookville.
And Mrs. Ashton boarded at your house.
She boarded at our house.
What was it like having your teacher come home to dinner?
I thought it was good.
So one of the great things about this museum, like many of the museums in the Washington area, is it's free.
You would have brought your lunch in something like this, a lunch pail.
All kinds of stuff inside the schoolhouse for kids, young and old, to look at, to touch. People can sit at the desks, they can draw on the chalkboard. Many young kids have never seen a chalkboard because their schools have whiteboards in them. You get to ring the school bell. The school bell was donated, and you can stay for 5 minutes or you can stay for an hour and a half. You can go play in the beautiful creek. We have outdoor games that you can play with. You can go to our park website and you can arrange for a special tour for your scout group, your camp, your school group. A lot of homeschoolers come here because they can actually relate very well to the schoolhouse because you had children, you know, for a wide range of children studying together, which is not unlike homeschoolers.
You guys see a drinking fountain? No. Here's the drinking fountain because we didn't have any running water in here.
The tour was really good. Like Mr. Rhodes explained to me about the house and how it was in the olden days.
The oldest kid in the morning would go down to the creek probably with this bucket and fill it up.
And I learned really so much about Kingsley Schoolhouse.
We like to welcome folks all year round. Bye. And we hope you'll come and visit us.
For more details, go to montgomeryparks.org. Composting is nature's way of recycling. It's especially important at a large-scale public garden such as Brookside, located in Silver Spring.
Montgomery County is really an environmentally friendly place, and we're really trying every day to make this a better place for our kids and our grandchildren in the future. And composting is one way of getting rid of unnecessary trash to go through the normal system and actually to put it to good use.
Now let's go behind the scenes to see how Brookside composts.
My name is Humberto Zeidler. I'm here at Brookside Garden, one of the greenhouse grower plant production facility. And one of my duties is also managing the compost systems at Brookside Garden, where we basically compost most of the materials produced at the gardens and process them and then reuse them here. I'm about to give a little tour behind the scenes to a group of visitors that they want to learn more of our operations behind the scene. Basically, we sort of segregate certain materials. The material we actually are able to process at Brookside Gardens are mostly small material, herbaceous, plus woody material that are not more than an inch thick in terms of branches. Everything else that is too big for us to handle is either chipped in the chipper. We have a wood chipper over there. The rest of the material we cannot process, it goes into this bin. You can see over here, which are root balls and really heavy duty stuff that we don't have the equipment to process. So that material will go to another facility, which is up in Pope Farm, which is another facility up county. The rest of the stuff, which will be like 80% of the material we produce inside our facility, Brookside Gardens, we process here. So basically, we get to a point where that bin is filled. Once it's filled, then we are going to basically mix it up. So to have a good composting recipe, you had to have proportions of ingredients, just like you're cooking. You need a recipe. You have the brown stuff and you have the green stuff. So the brown stuff you consider to be basically your carbohydrates, energy source. Which means leaves, dry leaves, branches, twigs, anything that is kind of basically kind of woody and brown. The green stuff will be mostly your clippings, young, fresh stuff that comes from the greenhouses. That will be your proteins, then nitrogen. So you have carbon and nitrogen. The proteins are carbohydrates. And that's what the bacteria needs to process. So they use those food groups and basically they start to break down the organic matter. By using energy and protein, they build themselves, they multiply and they increase in number, and the more numbers you have, the greater the proportion of number of bacteria, the faster your breakdown of organic matter is. So right now, these piles are running hot because there's a lot of green material in there, and not because the heat, outside heat, it had to do internal heat. And they're running around 150 degrees right now. So it's a little bit too hot. We wanted to bring it down to 130, 120 to 130. The thermometer may be reaching the temperatures you want, but you are developing a certain type of smell that is unpleasant, like methane. And that's becoming basically anaerobic, to being too much water. So with the thermometer on the aid of your nose, you can tell that you have to do something about the pile. And the management will be either aerate it, allow more air to come in, or you may have to change your recipe and you may have to add a little more brown material.
Would this be true composting at home?
Yes, it's the same principle applies. The thing is that the volume and the size is different, and the equipment you have is different. But basically you had to have a mix that is balanced. If it's too dry, that also impedes the composting because the bacteria need moisture, need water to operate, to carry their life cycle. This machine, what it does is that basically scoop the material, and once the material is in the bucket, what it does is with those rollers and teeth actually grinds up some of the material and also help to mix the material up and also add oxygen in the process. Then the same bucket is used to actually build the piles, the windrow piles. So it's a multiple use bucket that is very useful for small operations like ours, and also it has a lot of power in it by being hydraulic pumps, actually very effective, and it works really well for us. Once the compost gets to the point where it's mostly broken down to where we want, we have one more step, which we'll do here once a year in the fall, which is actually sifting it. Yeah. The end product, which is a finished compost, we actually store in a different bin, and is actually there for staff use to amend the soils in the different gardening areas, and we use it to basically improve the soils, and also sometimes use it as a top dressing for the grass. But our volunteers and people who work with us in the garden, they are also free to take some of that material as their payback for the labors.
So it's a good reason to volunteer.
So it's a good reason for volunteer at Brookside, because you get a free compost of good quality too. So
that's why they call it black gold.
To learn more about Brookside Gardens and its programs, go to brooksidegardens.org. So that's it for today's show. Thanks for watching this edition of Parks Rec and Roll.